As a universe that exists, partially within the world of sci-fi, but mostly within the world of fantasy, Star Wars has some storylines that involve things that are quite powerful and definitely overpowered in a lot of cases. Earlier on this year, I did a video about the Zeistin from Rise of Skywalker, which was, in my opinion, way too strong for what it was. But today we're going to be talking about something that I think takes the cake in Star Wars for the most powerful or most overpowered thing in the Star Wars universe. There's definitely a fun discussion to be had on what exactly is the most overpowered thing, but when I think of overpowered things within Star Wars, this is what jumps to mind. Quantum Crystalline Armor. This armor, introduced by the Jedi Academy trilogy, is best known as the armor used to build the Sun Crusher. It was developed at the Maw installation, an Imperial research lab hidden deep within the depths of the black hole cluster known as the Maw. The Sun Crusher's primary function was to go within a star system, launch a resonance torpedo into a star, and then cause that star to go supernova. Part of doing this would be a requirement that, for one thing, the ship needed to stay intact long enough to get into position to fire the torpedo, but once the torpedo went off, if the Sun Crusher wasn't able to get away fast enough, it needed some way to survive at least the tail end of the blast. Now, blowing up the sun is also something that I think is a little bit overpowered for such a small ship, but that's not where my biggest qualms lie with it. It really is the quantum crystalline armor that makes it so overpowered. This armor was essentially impregnable. It does imply within the Jedi Academy sourcebook that if the Sun Crusher remained too close to the exploding sun, that it could take damage from that, and ultimately it's destroyed in the Jedi Academy books by dropping the Sun Crusher into the Maw itself. Up to this point, it was able to survive being within the gas giant Yavin, where Kip Duran was able to recover it from, and it's also able to take direct turbo laser hits and suffer essentially no damage. It's implied that it's able to survive even concentrated barrages of turbolaser fire within the Essential Guide to Vehicles and Vessels. The armor is made by, quote, laying several layers of atoms which are attached as densely as possible, laminated on top of another thin film. This second film is just as tough as the primary armor, but phase shifted. My suspicion is that by phase shift in this context they mean what you'd typically talk about, where you have, for example, a sine graph and then you have it shifted by a certain amount so that the kind of crests and valleys overlay each other. So think of the thin layer of atoms and then having the next layer of atoms up, if you were to think of them as small physical high school billiard ball level of atoms. You would have that shifted half the length over, and that was kind of what they do to make this lattice network of layers of atoms. It's possible they don't mean physically offset in this way, but instead some other faux sci-fi techie thing, but that is my understanding of what's going on here. Now, the Sun Crusher is the most powerful military application of it that we see, and it's stated that this cost almost as much as the Death Star cost to build, but we do see the quantum crystalline armor in other places. Notably, we have the Shadow Chaser, which was a ship introduced in the Jedi Academy trilogy that kind of disappears after Lightsabers, the fourth book in the series. Presumably it's not destroyed and it's still out there somewhere, but again, we never really see it again. Jedi Academy, which is notably written by Kevin J. Anderson, the author who introduced the Sun Crusher, also includes another example of the quantum crystalline armor in Lando's Karuska Gem mining facility over Yavin. Karuska Gems are essentially super diamonds in that they are more or less the hardest substance we ever come across in Star Wars, and they're able to cut through pretty much anything. The surveying vessels that Lando has searching for the Karuska Gems in the storms of Yavin are made out of the quantum crystalline armor that is able to survive these turbolaser blasts, but when it's hit by a Karuska Gem, there is some denting that happens. It's not entirely clear if this is because the Karuska Gems are so damaging, or if it's because the ship that Lando was using for this wasn't quite as well equipped with the armor as something like, say, the Sun Crusher, which had a more direct military application. Either way, that is my pick for the most overpowered thing in Star Wars. If you disagree with me, and I'm sure many of you do, let me know what you think is the most overpowered thing in the comments. Otherwise, if you have enjoyed the video or would like to see more content, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons for more. Thanks for watching and hope to see you next time.